Hey y'all, we're back, and it's the two of us again to talk about a double dose episode of WoW Superheroes. There are a lot of matches to qualify people for the Battle Royal, and of course, we have turmoil in the tag team division. This is Steph and Kat Talk WoW.
Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs and the Ruben Studders.
So like I
More
got,
what you discover. For
I
all
had
of
an
the
idea.
lovers, Whitney
It was,
Houston and Roman
I
Reigns.
think
All
like
of
there
the
was two
lovers,
things
and
that I
Mickey
had
James and Marvin Gaye.
on
All of the lovers, and Sasha Banks,
on my
Janelle
personal
Monáe,
list
Silk,
for them,
Sonic, and Paige. Allow
which
me to say,
coincided with their
look,
list.
I just found a place we
It's just
escape
a matter of
every one
finding
of us. I was kinda lame, so I just made it
it,
up. The struggle
and it wasn't
was
that
walking by the
difficult
fake,
to
cause I
find.
know it's right in front of us. I ain't with the hate, gotta
And I don't know,
focus.
I kind of, like you just trying to find like a
Hey,
common.
looks like we have an extra voice.
Sorry.
Ah, well, in the midst of extra voices joining us, we have voices in and out of our heads. Hello, y'all. Welcome to a new double dose episode of Steph and Cat Talk Wow, brought to you by the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. Of course, I'm your girl, Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of HWP Extra, and co creator and host of this fabulous show. But of course, I'm not alone. We are back with the ultimate tag team with my partner, writer, author, super mom, and just all around amazing person, creator of In Cat We Trust, and just amazing backstage correspondent in various wrestling promotions. She is Katrina Blake. How are you, Kat?
Hey, I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to have you back. Of course, last week we took a little bit of time because Katrina celebrated a very special day with her oldest daughter who turned 18. So happy birthday to her. And we wishing her all the fun and success in her womanhood because, yo, it's fun and it's just really great. So I hope that you guys enjoyed everything.
Yeah, I mean the weather sucked in New York on her birthday, but she had a good time and got some matching tattoos. So
Yeah, I saw that. I thought that was so adorable. So I'm so happy that you guys still made the best of it. I know the weather has been going back and forth in different places. It's been going back and forth down here in Alabama too. One day it's cold, and the next day it's sort of moderately warm. So it's just like really weird for December. But either way, we are here to talk about what's been going on in the last two episodes of WoW Women of Wrestling Superheroes. And there seems to be a lot of women, of course, throwing their hat in the ring to get in this battle royal to qualify to face off for that vacant WoW World Championship that was left vacant by the Beast. And there's just so much happening, even in the tag division, the trios division, so much going on, but we are here to discuss it. And of course, if you are watching us live, thank you so much. And of course, if you're going to watch this later, watch it on our YouTube channels at the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. So, the first episode we're going to start with that aired on December the 7th and the 8th was called All Eyes on Gold. And before the matches got started, the episode started with a recap of Big Rigs and Bourbon, Jesse Jones and Big Rig Betty winning the Wild Tag Team titles from Miami's Sweet Heat due to the craziness of what happened with Holly Swag interfering in that match with those socks of rocks. So in the midst of that, they made their entrance in to sort of talk about how they're feeling after winning those tag titles. Jesse Jones started off by saying, I told you, David, ever since you stripped me of those titles, that they were coming back home to Bardstown, and looky here. But this time I got a partner that put in the work with me. Ain't that right, Betty? And of course, Big Rig Betty said, "All right, now I know all y'all are wondering how I'm feeling after little Swaggy turned her back on me, but let me tell y'all something. Me and Jesse Jones go way back before Little Rick was ever even thought of, okay? And there ain't nobody back there that's taking these titles off of Big Rigs and Bourbon, I'll tell you that. So, in the midst of them feeling all of their confidence and whatnot, they get interrupted by the fabulous Lana Star and the rest of the Fab Four, who are looking pretty beltless and goldless at this point. And they proceed to say, Lana proceeds to say, I wouldn't celebrate too much when Pink wins her main event qualifying match tonight and then goes on to win the battle royale because she's beaten everyone. And then Jesse said, well, except me, she didn't beat me. Remember that? Lana said, she will. Then Miami Sweet Heat will easily become the 5-time tag team champions, and you two will be nothing but a blip on the Fab Four's radar. And Jesse Jones said, keep it up. You just might get a chance at winning if I'm not your opponent. Good luck. So, with all of this war of words, they made their way out of the ring and made way for the first match. Now, Katrina, tell me how you're feeling from seeing Big Rigs and Bourbon hold the titles and getting interrupted by the Fab Four, who just can't seem to stay out of any title picture if it meant that they needed help in order to stay out of it.
Well, I can understand as far as, Jesse and Big Rick's Betty, feeling like, well, we got each other, considering Holly basically ditched Betty for the Fab Four. And I can respect the whole, like, well, we've been around longer together, that nobody's going to take it. And Jessie, to be fair, has been saying she wanted those titles a while ago. So, like, I guess it's one of those, like, full circle moments. With that being said, with regards to Lana and the Fab Four, I'm like, how I've been feeling in particular about them having the beat in the title picture. And so, in one way I can see, because they just lost it, there's always that whole rematch clause. Most times, there's always a rematch for it. But then the other point is like, girls, if you don't just take a minute to reassess, it'd be fine. I promise. Like, you don't need to like go right back in wanting the titles. Like, I get wanting to have the gold in the group, totally understand that. But it's also like, yeah, I had it hostage for a little bit. Like just tad, relax, just tad. Just tad. But otherwise, it was a good segment.
Yeah, those girls just don't know how to slow down when it comes to those tag titles, and they probably feel like they don't have to assess or reassess any of their moves. So they're just like, look, we know what we're doing. We're always right. So we're just going to go right back into the swing of things and try to get our titles back. So anyway, it's just a crazy situation that they're in. Also in commentary, they mentioned that David McLean was given an award at CAC Las Vegas for being an independent promoter of the year. So congratulations to him for that. And just to say, this episode was really special and very high stakes because in this episode, every match was a qualifying match to get in with a spot in the Battle Royal. So Tormenta cut a promo before we even got to our first match and said, I'm ready to face Siren and qualify to participate in the Battle Royal. She said, this is a promo she cut in Spanish, but this is translated. The Wild World Championship is the single most important title in women's wrestling, and this is my chance to win it and show it off on my waist. So with that in mind, this goes into match number 1. Fury versus Santana Garrett. This was a match that I was definitely interested in seeing, considering Santana had fought so valiantly against Classmaster, who was essentially the number one contender at a certain point before, of course, the Beast decided that she was going to step away from Lao. And Santana was fighting her tooth and nail a lot of the time. So now she has this opportunity to get in the Battle Royal and such. And now to go up against someone like Fury, who is very different with her arsenal in comparison to Santana, I was really intrigued by this. So there was a lot of agility and submission from Santana Garrett going up against a brawling brute force of Fury. David, of course, said that he saw the beast and respects her decision to chill out from WoW and that she may return to look at the Battle Royal, just to see how it goes. Santana Garrett had a very impressive showing with a backhand spring elbow, which gave her a little bit of life as Fury worked her down and stuff. But then she locked her in with the muta. Sorry, yeah, muta lock, and then gave a rise and shine nip up elbow and a super kick in order to win the match. But of course, Fury tried her level best to just weigh her down a bit and just keep her from moving as fast as she normally moves. But in the end, it wound up not working out, and Santana wound up qualifying for the Battle Royal. So she's in along with Xena Phoenix. And this was a really good match. I enjoyed it very much. So after the match ended, David interviewed her, and she said that she feels like she's fully back after this victory, and she talked about how she still struggles and wants to fight for herself and the memory of her father and the honor of the girls in the locker room. So Santana is feeling really inspired, and she really does want to go all the way and win the WoW World title again. So Katrina, how did you feel about this match between Fury and Santana Garrett?
I thought it was a good match. It's in one aspect, it's kind of nice that we have been seeing Fury get her moments of solo matches, considering how we were introduced to her and this iteration. And with regards to just being with a group, and then kind of like you was solo, and then you was with Rebel, and then so it was kind of cool to kind of. I'm not sure if her and Rebel are still like a thing, or they just completely like officially like separated or whatever. But it was nice in that regard, like, okay, well, she's throwing her hat in there to hopefully make it to the next set, as it was implied before that she wanted to hopefully win the title. With that being said, I can understand Santana has a different level of I don't want to say, I want to say urgency, but I think her reasoning is the reasoning she has as of now seems to be propelling her a bit more in regards to trying to make sure she gets the outcomes she wants, because she has this goal for her dad. And while it is nice to also want to fight for the women in the locker room, I will say that's more of a, like, anybody I think who has like a goal. I think if you have one that's for a group, I always feel like if there's a group one, the personal one usually is more prevalent to a person when they're looking to reach goals or stuff. And if you have like a personal reason for doing XYZ, and on top you might can also inspire or help out somebody else, and that's the bonus. And so I feel like in this regard, Santana has this goal of, I want to do this for my dad. And so I wasn't surprised with her winning, because I felt like it'd be kind of weird to say, and then her not win it. But it also makes you like, oh, well, you can't have, I guess you can't have two winners in this regard. And so it's like one of those, like, oh, well, she's having the opportunity, but she's also not winning. And it doesn't really help either. So it's like one of those like conflicting things. You're like, oh, I get it. But also, like, well, in one guard, it's like it works for one person, but in the other time, it's also like, well, what about her in the winning aspect, and that way. But it was a good match. Either way, it's just something like, you notice, I guess, when you have somebody like a Fury who's been trying to kind of really strike out on her own, but it always seems to be some kind of like roadblock or something in the way.
Yeah, it makes me sad. Like as you were talking, a lot of all of your points were definitely valid, but it makes me sad, as you were talking about it, because you know how one of our biggest concerns when they started the battle royal was that why couldn't they just um have all the women? Well, I think I was talking to someone else about it, but not necessarily you. I felt like why couldn't all the women just be in it as opposed to just having like qualifiers so none of the women could feel left out and they could all have an equal chance. Um even though I understand the competitive nature of it, it still to me feels sad to not have Fury be a part of it because she at one point last season, wanted to strike out on her own with a solo career, but then she was placed with Rebel Hayes, who she had sort of like a similar background with in terms of the hard rock lifestyle, and then they were fighting together, but then Rebel Hayes is not on this season, so or at least she hasn't shown up yet. And it's just kind of like, well, what else is Fury gonna do? Like, she lost this match, and it feels almost really sad that she's not in it because by all accounts she should have a fair chance to be a part of this battle royal if it wasn't so competitive and cutthroat in the sense that only the women who won this match get to be in it. Like if they were doing like what NXT does with like a last chance type of thing, for like the final spot, like I feel like she could definitely benefit from something like that, but I don't know if they will do anything like that. But if they did, it would be really cool because I mean Fury, she's a consistent performer. Like she is a WoW OG who is a consistent performer, and I would prefer or love it if she did have a place in it, but that's just not how it is. And Santana's in it. And I'm glad that she feels motivated, whatever with all of the motivations that she has. I'm glad that she's feeling that now. But at the same time, it does kind of hurt that Fury's not in it now. So I don't know. I guess we just have to wait and see what happens with her, but I hope that she does bounce back from it. So, in the meantime, we go into match number 2, which was here again, another qualifying match with Siren the Voodoo Doll versus Tormenta, who we heard from earlier. And Siren the Voodoo Doll didn't come out alone. She came with a friend, and that's new WoW superhero, Magnificent Miranda Mirage, M to the third power. And Miranda decided that she was going to hook up with her due to like their magical entities, if you could call it that. And I just thought that was really interesting how she just made her debut and how they mentioned that one of her motivations was to strike out on her own and not be an assistant, only for you to go with Siren and essentially, aid her. But we're just gonna move past that at this point. Tormenta, this was actually Tormenta's first time facing Siren on WoW. Tormenta came in hot and she was ready for action and just started jumping on Siren immediately with punches and an insecurity and an arm drag. Into the third power, Miranda distracted Tormenta with a trick, like I said, and Siren kicked Tormenta down into a submission and hit a Northern Light suplex on her. And I feel like that's a very underrated part of Siren's arsenal is that Northern Light suplex. Like we've seen plenty of other women do it, like Vix Crow, who was formerly known as Alicia Fox, and we've seen plenty of other men do it. But seeing Siren executed was just something interesting, and it showed a level of strength that I rarely see from her because every time we see Siren, she's in tag team action as opposed to being in singles action. And we saw a lot from her that I just feel like we don't usually see a lot. And then, of course, Tormenta fought back with a backstabber to Siren and hit a series of clotheslines. And then Siren fought back with a bubble bomb and a cannonball to Tormenta in the corner of the ring. But she missed the second cannonball, and Tormenta took advantage by jumping into a backflip um onto M to the third power and to Siren and hit her meteor from the top rope in order to win and qualify for the battle royal. And Tormenta is in it. So this was a really good and hard fought match. Siren did a phenomenal job. I love seeing her work in singles action here, and it was still interesting to see M to the third power work as a distraction, but either way still get smashed. So hopefully she's learned her lesson, but it was still pretty good. So Katrina, how did you feel about Siren versus our girl Tormenta?
That was a really good match. I feel like I said this a few weeks ago that we didn't really see too much of solo Siren's matches because she was always kind of there with Holiday, and she was always there with Chainsaw, and so she was kind of like sometimes she would wrestle, but having like solo matches is not something we've seen too much of her. So it's really nice that we, even with some of the shenanigans that she was engaging in, it's really nice that we can kind of see her, see what she can do on her own here at well. With that being said, already having somebody aligned with you where you're like doing shenanigans again does not help the cause if you're having the opportunity to kind of showcase, you're like, well, I'm going to also help semi use somebody to kind of distract to an extent. Because is it like, are you done completely, at least with Chainsaw? Because that's like, it feels like she's kind of moving away from that, and Chainsaw's having her, I know her own, is she turning face or whatnot. Um, but Tormenta, again, this is one of those matches I just think I was really surprised at who won it, just because Tormenta, we've said plenty of times she's like one of like a fantastic wrestler, and obviously has accolades from other places to prove it. But there was also the thing with her and Princess Aussie recently, where they were kind of a group or unit, and so having her go solo to get another opportunity to possibly be champion, I would have been very surprised if she didn't win it, only because I feel like she's a person who's had quite a few matches, something I've also said before, why I wasn't understanding how she was getting so many opportunities when she kept losing those matches. So I feel like she probably has something to prove as well, because every time she did get an opportunity, she would lose the match and somebody else would win. And so I feel like this is definitely for her too more of a personal thing, like, well, here's another shot to prove that I do also deserve to be champion. But it was a really good match.
Yeah, it was really good. And I loved that Tormenta definitely stepped up her game in order to prove that she deserves this opportunity. Because it's like you said, we've seen her in so many situations where she'll qualify, for a championship match, only to go on and lose. And I feel like this battle royal might actually work to her advantage because this is a woman who can not only grapple with the best of them, but she's also, of course, really um what's the word I'm looking for? She's very well versed when it comes to the world of lucha. So if she's on the top rope, she could use that to her advantage. And it could also not work at the same time because somebody could bounce her off the ropes. But either way, she knows the ropes so well that I'm more than sure it would still work to her advantage a lot more than it wouldn't. And I am really glad that she has this opportunity. And Siren, even though she's been sort of grouped up with a lot of women over the past few years at WoW, like she is definitely somebody who I would love to see wrestle a whole lot more on the single side of things. But she's always bringing people in with her dark aura, and I'm wondering what this partnership with Miranda is going to bring. Like, is she just going to possess her, or is she gonna, use her magic for evil? Um, like like the wizard or I'm sorry. There's just so many like Wicked is still in my head. I'm still trying to recover it from Wicked Brain. But it's just making me wonder like how is all of this gonna work or play out? Because Siren always pulls somebody in with her. Like but my thing is why doesn't she trust herself? Because clearly in the ring she can go. So, I wish she could trust herself. So that's just what I'm wishing for. But Tormenta has qualified, which makes it even cooler with Xena Phoenix and now her and Santana. So after this match, we go backstage and the Fab Four locker room, and there seems to be seeds of dissent being planted. You have Penelope Pink being irritated with the fact that she has to fight to qualify for the Battle Royal. Lindsay and Lori want to get back into the tag title picture. They want their rematch with Big Rigs and Bourbon. And then they're irritated at Holly Swag for hitting Lori in the head with the sock of rocks by accident. But then Holly further stirs the pot by saying that by basically saying that it was the twins' fault, but then Lana basically says, like, look, y'all need to calm down because I actually have a plan to get us back on top. And they were just like, okay, we'll trust you. But then they sounded very doubtful of it. So now it's like the Fab Four just essentially just spiraling and just looking for any solution to make them feel better about themselves. So, in the midst of all of that, we go to match number three. Gigi Gianni with BK Rhythm, the Brat Pack, versus Holly Swag, who we just mentioned. And something noticeable with all the changes that Holly Swag has been going through since she's joined the Fab Four is that she now has a new theme song, and it sounds very trap hip hop. It is very trap hop, and it sounded pretty catchy when I was hearing it, like while I was watching it on my computer, but I didn't hear it in my headphones. So of course it was just like, okay, this kind of has a beat. Let's go, let's go. So yeah. Um, so now we have a battle of swag between Gigi and Holly because Gigi likes to live that fabulous life as well, and she thinks she's just the most gorgeous woman in the room. Now, mind you, Gigi is a gorgeous girl. Don't get me wrong. But, there's just a lot of ego in the ring at this point when it comes to Holly and Gigi. So Gigi had the upper hand in the beginning, but then Holly's swag wound up taking advantage with lots of hard hits. Because Holly, even though she's really small, she uses that to her advantage by using her small hands and her elbows and her knees to try to like dig inside of you. And that's something that can't be, understated. And then of course with BK Rhythm out there, she pulled Holly off of the apron, and of course Gigi was going to use her to that advantage. Gigi stepped on Holly with her fashion walk, and that almost caused a three count, but then Holly kicked out. Gigi then hit a backbreaker between the ropes to Holly, which almost had the match won, but then Holly, decided to kick out. And then they hit the album cover pose onto Holly, but then Holly fought back on the top rope. And then she tried to go for a crossbody, but then Gigi impressively reversed it into a power slam. And both ladies then hit a face plant onto the ropes. Well, not onto the ropes, but onto the mat. And then BK threw a gold necklace to Gigi, for her to use it as a weapon, but then Holly wound up catching it, and then the referee caught it and then gave it to BK. But then Holly, here again, used that sock of rocks to hit Gigi and knock her out. And now Holly has qualified for the Battle Royal. And after she qualified for it, Lana Star cut a promo saying, well, 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 lights, camera, action, my newest sensation, and a star that everyone will be talking about. Hollywood swag. And then Holly responded, Lord have mercy. Holly responded and said, I might be from the sticks, Lana, but I done spent some time in them streets and I ain't no Hollywood. I'm Holly Hood. Bougetto, as a matter of fact. That's half bougie and half ghetto. And then Lana said, well, not Beverly Hills. And that was the end of that. So, yeah, Holly Swag is now Holly Hood, and she has qualified for the Battle Royal. Now, Katrina, how do you feel about the match and how it went, and Gigi's performance in it, as well as what Holly Swag slash Holly Hood Swag had to say?
So I thought Gigi was great. I'm actually a little sad that she didn't win. Um, but I feel like they're doing this. There's going to be some kind of discord between, Holly and Penelope, and I'm thinking this is why they did it this way. Because I feel like now it's a little bit obvious that that's where this is going. But I thought Gigi was great. Outside of BK trying to throw that in the ring, 'cause I didn't even think Gigi necessarily needed it. I felt like she was doing well on her own, that she didn't really necessarily need that kind of interference. But it's like, as the referees, it's like you catch one, but not catch everything. You're going to catch everything. But then again, that's like wrestling referees. They always kind of pick and choose how you're seeing, how we're catching shenanigans on the outside. With that being said, with Holly, you know, so I am aware that Hollywood is the name that she wrestles with outside of WoW. I am aware of that. And I was never a fan of that name in particular for a few reasons. Um, for a few reasons, I didn't particularly, and just slightly off. I didn't particularly even like the response she necessarily gave when people were like about how some of what she does with that can be a bit problematic if you're looking at it from, a black woman per se doing this exact same kind of I'm bougie and get it like that type of thing would not work without it being super disrespectful if a black woman did it. And so I was hoping that they wouldn't use this for a while. I was hoping. But once I saw the fur hat, I was like, oh, they're bringing it because I saw the hat. When I saw the hat, and that's normally what Holly, wears when she's Holly Hood. I was like, all right, I guess. But her, I just like, as soon as she said that, I was like, now see, all you had to do was be quiet. All you had to do was be quiet. You didn't have to say anything. You didn't have to make a whole speech about how you from the streets, because girl, you being a certain way doesn't necessarily mean you're from the streets per se. Um, I feel like and that's obviously not even a color thing. It's not even that. It's people who are truly street don't necessarily need to say it. They just are. I feel like, you know, as a New Yorker, but people who I've known is like, no, people who are truly about that, they don't gotta say nothing. They just about it. Like you just know that's what it is. And so I'm like, I don't like that. And I was a little surprised even with Lana kind of accepting all of that. Cause like, girl, you're supposed to be top quality from the way you speak, from the way you act. Like the Fab Four is like this level of, and then she said that and you were just like, well, I mean, okay, well, like, no, like, because personally, if I was Penelope going in, hearing that, I'm like, did we, off of character, how the characters are, like, did we just demote a bit? Because that's not what we were supposedly, from even how they were, all the stuff that was said about Holly and Betty previously, before Holly left. Just was a very weird response to me from Lana because, like, you guys were implying you guys are so much better. And even if Holly got used to the better, for you to kind of even accept that little speech she gave, it was like, oh, okay, I guess we're okay, kind of changing how you might look at the members of Fab Four, which I don't know if it's going to be a problem. Again, I feel like they're leading to some kind of problem between Holly and Penelope. I do feel like that's going to happen at some point. Um, but yeah, otherwise the match was fine. I just particularly didn't like that host spew, but that's also because I didn't really like that character in general. I was not really a fan of before a while. So like it was just like, oh, I was hoping you didn't do it. I was just hoping you didn't bring that in. But and as far as the Jamiroquai comment, facts.
So I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just laughing because this I just the first time this is my boyfriend, y'all. First time he said this, I had to think about it, and then when I saw it, I just could not stop laughing because I was like, "Wow, that is essentially the same hat," and it's so cute. Like I think the hat is cute no matter who wears it. But from a serious standpoint, because I'm trying to reel it back in. I'm sorry. He just makes me laugh. I'm sorry. Uh, um, from a serious standpoint, when it comes to the Hollywood um gimmick, I had heard about it online, but I had never seen it because I guess you could just chalk that up to me not being as deep into indie wrestling as a lot of people can be in the wrestling community because there's still a lot that I'm learning and figuring out. So I found out about it online years ago, and I was just like, okay. And then it was easy for me to kind of just ignore because I wasn't seeing a whole lot of it, but clearly I could see that it made a lot of people who would eventually become my peers upset. And because I wasn't seeing how problematic it could have been, I guess I was just okay. But then when I found out that it was the woman who portrayed Holly Swag for all these years on WoW, I was just like, oh. Okay. Um, so now seeing it manifest itself in WoW, like when she first made the speech, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be awkward. Yeah, this made a lot of people upset, and it made me feel like it was definitely gonna make you upset, Kat. Like when I saw it, I was just like, yeah, this is gonna be a very awkward part of the episode because there's only so much I know outside of WoW. And of course, I don't want to take away, what her inspiration for the character was per se and say that it's wrong. But at the same, because I don't have as much information as you would have or as anybody else would have. But at the same time, I guess I could kind of see how it would be cringy, in a sense. So because from the WoW perspective, you go from being sort of like this, truck stop lifestyle, and kicking people's behind and wearing these shorts and everything with your mom to all of a sudden, getting on the high life in Beverly Hills, and now you want to be bougie and ghetto when nothing about your character on WoW was giving ghetto to begin with. It was just kind of like, that doesn't make sense in the context of WoW because that's what I know most of. So it doesn't make sense. But I do hear everything you're saying, Katrina, and I am taking it into account, but of course I just don't want to get on here and say a lot without knowing the full depth of how problematic it could be. So yeah, it was really awkward for her to say that, and then for Lana to just kind of take it on the chin and just be like, "Oh, we're just gonna move on and just not Beverly Hills." Okay, we'll see how far this goes. But in the context of the match, I am kind of sad as well that Gigi did not go forward because she did do an excellent job in sort of taking down Holly for a good portion of that match. Like she really did, do a fantastic job. So it did kind of irk me a little bit that BK would kind of just, oh, well, here's this chain to cheat with because she really didn't need it. So it was just kind of like, okay, she could have, broken her down herself. But here again, it almost makes me wonder if Gigi even had that fair of a chance, considering Holly was going to use those rocks anyway. So, yeah, cheating, cheating, cheating. So many shenanigans. But the thing that I did like about this from a petty standpoint is the fact that both of these girls are heels. And because they're both heels, they were both trying to just upend each other in the same way that they would have done to anybody else. Because Lana always likes to play dirty for her people, and BK was playing dirty for Gigi. So it was almost like they had met their match in that way. So that part was really funny. But yeah, Holly, Holly Swag is has qualified for the battle royal. So moving forward, with the rest of this first episode, the Wild Trios champions top tier made their way to the ring with their new athleisure outfits on. And Coach decided to take it upon herself to share coach tips. Number one being never stop training if you want to keep winning. Number 224, play to your strengths. And number 315, know when to apply more pressure. You're welcome. So she just decided to just come out here and just share all this knowledge with us. So yeah, we will talk more about them later. So we go backstage with Lana and Holly, and then Penelope reminded Lana while she was sitting on the couch and drinking champagne, like, hello, are you gonna come out for my match? And then Lana was like, yeah, I'm coming. And then when Holly was acting like she wanted to come out there with them, Penelope shoves her back on the couch and says, "Not you." And I was like, Jesus Christ. And then Lana just told her to just chill and just stay in here and have a bottle of champagne. To which Holly said, "Sure, I'll just chill in here." And then she started drinking the whole bottle of champagne right out the bottle, not even a glass. Um, so this leads us to the main event of this episode, which was Penelope Pink versus Roxxy Fierce, you dig? And of course, Lana Star came out there. She was working overtime tonight. Penelope, um, started off with a headlock onto Roxy, who just looks fierce every time we see her. No pun intended. Um, And then Roxy was actually powering Penelope Pink around throughout a good portion of this match. She made me so proud here. Because if it's one thing that Roxy does, even in a match with people who are more experienced than her, she is going to show you everything that she has learned and garnered in her wrestling knowledge. And Miss Ma'am was giving Penelope what for? She was tossing her, slamming her, and she gave her a good arm drag. Penelope Pink kept trying to thumb her in the eye in order to get the upper hand. And then she hit the double knees to Roxy. And then she posed on top of Roxy as Lana was yanking on her arms. I was just like, look, yank on her arms all you want to. Don't touch her hair. And she didn't, thank God. Roxy then caught a kick that Penelope was trying to land on her and then shoved her into the corner. And then Roxy and Penelope were trading strikes back and forth. Then Roxy hit a suplex from the top rope, which was just amazing, freaking amazing. And then she hit a series of clotheslines and then another back suplex. And then Roxy then hit a belly to belly suplex, which reminded me of Bailey. But Penelope hit a jawbreaker, but then Roxy hit a front facing suplex. And this was a very good back and forth match to the point where I really felt like it was kind of hard to tell who was going to win here, which is great considering Roxy just started and she's just out here kicking all this butt. It's just crazy. But then, of course, Lana Star interfered and then Pink hit the pretty in pink while the referee was distracted. And Penelope Pink qualified for the Battle Royal as Holly Swag came out there to celebrate with the champagne. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this match and the performance of Roxy Fierce up against Penelope Pink? And how do you feel about the shenanigans and the growing tensions that are taking place in the Fab Four?
Well, one, I thought both of them, both ladies killed it. I thought it was a good main event. I thought Roxy really showcased what she can do, and I know she was kind of like she had solo matches already in WoW, but she also was introduced kind of like, basically being there for Foxy. And so it was kind of nice to kind of see, like, all right, she didn't come out with Foxy, she was by herself. She kind of, I guess, her way kind of showing, what she can do as just Roxy and not necessarily part. And there's not anything wrong with being obviously part of your sister's thing or being part of a tag. It's not that. It's just sometimes you just gotta step out on your own. Sometimes you gotta show what you can do on your own. I think that's, well, you have a sister and I have siblings. And so it's always that, like, what can you do also on your own? Like, obviously you're great together, but like, what can you do on your own? So I thought like Roxy really, really did her thing in this match. But again, I know you have your Penelope beef. I've always said, I like Penelope, and I thought the one thing she can do is wrestle, and I felt like she really did. And this is again one of those like reminders of like, well, when she won the championship, when she had the last time at the, when we were at the con and watched it basically happen. And it's funny because the last two ladies standing was her and Foxy. And so I thought it was a nice little reminiscent of you going back into the battle royal that's supposed to for the title, and you're taking on the other sister when she was the person you had to technically defeat to win the belt that time. And so I thought that was a nice little, I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but I thought that was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. You took on both sisters, kind of semi-similar, because that was also like a battle royal, if I'm not mistaken, for that title at the Comic-Con. And so you kind of, while it wasn't happening at that very moment, it's rather they're doing things leading up to this battle royal. It's like, you know, I just thought it was a nice little, like, okay, I peeped, guys. I peeped Fierce sister. She took on both. And so, with that being said, I don't even know if Lana necessarily even needed. This is one of those things. Like, I don't know if she necessarily needed to interfere. I think Penelope would have been fine. I didn't get the impression that it was dire that Lana had to step in. With that being said, as I've said a few times already for this episode of WoW, I think they're setting this up to be an issue. Penelope clearly does not like Holly. Uh, Penelope clearly, I don't know, and I can't even say it's because she wants all the attention, because she was fine with Vicky and she was fine with the twins, and so it can't be just a whole solely like attention thing. It can't just be oh, you want all the attention because you're in a squad of more women. There's no way you can think you're getting the attention. And I don't think she's ever really complained about that before, but she doesn't like Holly. And I'm thinking, like, does she think there's something even like it's one thing how I feel like you might not have to like a person, but you can respect it necessarily if they say, this is who I am. Penelope has never shied away from who she is. Her character in the WoW is exactly the way it is. I am better than you. I do this. I'm like, we got money. We got all these things. And I don't know if she's seeing it as Holly is somewhat a pretender. Because again, way we were introduced to the characters of WoW was you guys were truckers who had a little bit issue with money and funds and all that stuff. And it happens, America currently, a lot of people struggling. So it makes sense. But you go from that to all of a sudden you bougie. But how bougie could you possibly have been if you're using the term actual bougie, like what the term kind of stems from, is usually people who have some level of funds. And that's saying you can't be broke and bougie because obviously you can. But what I mean is like the term, stemming from like, you want the finer things. You think you're too good for things. You have a certain level of like how you look at things, how you want things to be. And you can't go from I'm the trucker girl or the daughter of a trucker or whatever it is, and all of a sudden you again for WoW points for particularly to WoW. Now you hood and you bougie and you ghetto whatever. That and maybe Penelope is saying like, that's a bit like more faker than it needs to be for the squad. And maybe that's what it is. Or maybe she thinks Holly's playing them. I don't know, because like I do think it just seems too easy. And that's what I said. Like at the end of the day, that's your mom. And I know wrestling has the story, family lives. We know this happened all the time with brothers and friends and whatever the case may be. I know that, but it's just like it seemed too easy for you to do it because you hung out with them one time previously, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, mom, bye. At least, with other kind of like you see the split happening, it was always a multiple things. And you saw it happening. Like, okay, this gonna be some kind of split here in this group. But you saw it happening. I felt like it was like, girl, you had one time, you kind of hung out with them and you don't know how to act. Like, please. Because if you was truly bougie, you would have been the couple of things we would have been doing differently with the situation with your mom, personally, if you're sitting here talking about you bougie. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe Penelope just sees her as like, I don't really trust you. And to be fair, I can kind of see it. Like I said, at least we know what to expect out of the twins, and we know what to expect out of Penelope. It's exactly what it is for them. And you don't have to like it, but it is what it is as far as this is who they are. And it's been very clear from day one that the Fab Four was a certain way of how they wanted to do things and how they felt they were from everybody else in the locker room. And then you got Holly who kind of finagled her way in there. So I can kind of see why Penelope's like, I don't need you out there.
Yeah, because Penelope, like you said, is as much as I don't like her, she's been consistent. If she's not anything else outside of talented and beautiful and crazy, um like she is consistently who she is, and she's always been under the impression that Lana and the other girls have had her back, and it's just for her to be, this aggressive towards Holly. It's like she definitely knows, it's almost like she has a BS meter and she can just spot it like a mile away. And I feel like that's really what's going on between her and Holly. And when it comes to the match per se, I would have loved it if it was, if Roxy had won, because she was just performing so well. And she's just someone who I really feel like is just on the trajectory of someone who could be a champion in the future if she ever decided to be, or if her and, Foxy decided to go for the tag titles. That's something that they can do as well, because they're just so athletically sound. And the more I see her, the more impressed I am by her. And I'm so happy. I feel like I was saying this on my show last week, how I feel like there's always a road towards, a woman's wrestling thing in my life. I love how every time we talk about WoW, the road always somehow leads back to LA. Because you mentioning Penelope having to fight Foxy in like the as the final two in order to become champion, and then now having to fight her sister is just kind of nuts. That timing, the timing of it and the construction of it is nuts, and I just think that's amazing. So yeah, like this match was fantastic. Of course, they both performed to the best of their ability. Lana did not have to interfere, but she just somehow has to find her way to fandangle herself in it just so she can get the desired outcome that she wants. So Penelope Pink has qualified for it as much as it irritated her to have to do it. She's in it, but then of course Holly comes out, and she wants to celebrate, but that's how the episode ended. And my thing is to also speak to Holly being sort of bougie, like if she was bougie, she wouldn't have been drinking that champagne out the bottle like that. But that's what my mama would have called country. Like she would have been like, "That is so country. Like, why couldn't you just pour it in a glass?" But um, it's just a lot of tension happening there. So hopefully we'll see more of how that manifests itself. So now we're moving into the episode that aired this past weekend, December 14th and 15th, called Instinct for Victory. And backstage, the episode started with Chainsaw giving Pep Riley a black daisy and petting her on her head. And I just thought that was so adorable. I was like, oh, that was sweet. Even though I've never seen a black daisy, but that's sweet. Never seen a black daisy grow out the ground like that. But either way, I mean, it's the sentiment that matters. Okay, buy flowers is what I'm saying. Okay, so top tier comes out and they make their entrance, before their match, and then Coach Campanelli grabs the microphone and says, "Well, it seems like you guys can't get enough of us," because they did pop up in the last episode. And you know what? That's understandable since we are the greatest team in all of professional wrestling. So here we are again. And you know what? I just want to say that we're not scared little wrestlers. We will wrestle in any combination, singles, doubles, triples, in any trio match, championship or not. And then Crush here again tries to grab the microphone and chime in, but then Coach just snatches it from her because I guess she's still on probation. So Coach continued and said, "Well, I don't want my team waiting here too long and getting cold. Clearly, they're ready to wrestle. So, you know what, Katie, why don't you go ahead and bring out our next opponents, whoever they may be, because Coach knows best." So, as the team makes their entrance, we see Little J Boogie for the first time this season. Cheeky Chamorro and Pep Riley, coming out. But J Boogie has a cast on her arm because she had a dancing injury. Because, of course, if y'all remember, Lil J Boogie also loves to dance and break dance and also do other forms of dance as well. But, of course, when you're dancing so much, injuries can be sustained. And she's also a dance teacher. So, she couldn't wrestle. So she offered David another alternative by saying, "Look, even though I can't wrestle, can you please just have Tiki and Pep wrestle in a tag team match along with Top Tier?" And Coach said, "Oh, yeah, we're so broken up about it. Whatever, we'll do it. And David said, "Well, okay, since y'all think y'all can beat anybody in any combination, here y'all go." So match number one turned out to be Crush and Gloria Glitter going up against Tiki Chamorro and Pep Riley in a regular tag team match without the trios titles on the line. So Pep in the beginning hit a crucifix pin and lots of high flying moves to Crush, which of course caught her off guard because nobody ever expects Pep to really come in hot like that. But when she does, they're just like, whoa, what the heck? And then Tiki decided to get hard hits onto Gloria Glitter when she got tagged in, and then Crush knee strikes to Tiki. Gloria actually had a chance to knock Pep Riley off of the apron. But then she was able to break the count after they hit their patented top drop. And then Gloria Glitter hit her stair stepper to Tiki's back and a clothesline, which was just so disrespectful. Like, why are you stepping on my back? Um, then Gloria Glitter locked in a camel clutch to Tiki Chamorro, which was just horrible looking. But then, of course, after Tiki escaped, she hit shoulder tackles to Gloria. But then Pep got fierce with a cartwheel back elbow splash to Crush. And then Crush knocked Pep out finally with the lights out suplex. And Top Tier wound up winning the match. Oh, that's a really cute shot of her hair. Um, so, yeah, Top Tier was actually able to back up the mess that they were talking in that promo and beat Tiki and Pep. But Tiki and Pep really did fight to the best of their ability, with Lil J Boogie on commentary sounding very disappointed in them losing. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this match, and how do you feel about Crush's hair in that picture?
No, that was a good shot for hair. No, I thought this was a good match, and I definitely was surprised with Pep, you know, seeming a little bit more aggressive. And not saying that being nice is not a good is a bad thing, because it's not. It really isn't. But in situations you got to deal with a team like a top tier who has this we're the best team in professional wrestling. This attitude. You got to kind of come in swinging, and I think she did. I do think she did. With that being said, as much as I love, Tiki in particular, top tier has been together for some time now, and you had already had, three of them separately who were pretty solid. So you're putting them together, and they've been working together for some time ever since they became the trio's champion, basically. And so I feel like in this regard, they had the edge. They already knew how the other works, and even with, Coach not even having to be in the match and Lil J Boogie not being in the match, the fact that they still was able to pull off the change, because while it seemed like they didn't know the opponents until we did. But they still was like, you know what, in this situation, we're gonna still do what we do, and they did. And so that's one of those things that's like, we can't say coach is necessarily wrong in that regard when she was like basically we defended her. And that's also something that both, Crush and Coach said when they were spoken to about like just being the best tag team, or, being the best team and everything else. And so with that being said, though, I'm surprised at Crush's like lack of you just taking things from me, because this doesn't feel like the Crush we know in regards to how she was like basically she always will, make sure she's heard and all this other stuff. But then you coaches basically saying God knows what and basically being rude. There's no need to take the microphone. There's no need for all of that. And I'm like, couldn't be me personally. Coach would have to get flipped if I'm trying to say something and you take the microphone from me. We're not doing that. So I feel like at some point that is also going to be an issue. At some point, I don't think Crush is going to be okay with Coach consistently taking the mic from her, basically implying her thoughts really don't matter because she's Coach. Because basically, even when they were spoken to, it was kind of that same like, well, Coach knows everything. Coach knows best. It doesn't really matter what we feel or say, and that always comes to be a problem in general. Like, if you have an attitude like that, your team eventually might feel a little bit away of it, might feel upset about it. And so I do think that this is probably going to be an issue later on, um, with the two of them. Like something's probably going to blow up because she's basically just not being considerate of Crush being on the team.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that, because Coach is essentially the same person that she was, just to a greater degree in Team Spirit. Because how like earlier when we were covering WoW, and Coach would always like interrupt Randy Rah Rah, or always keep Pep, or keep Sasha Sparks, or keep Ariel Sky from saying anything. This is essentially the same person, just to an even eviler is not the word. It's not a word at all. To an even more evil degree. There we go. It's late. And it's been a long day. But yeah, like to an even more dark degree, this is like her just punishing them because she wants them to, she's masking it as wanting them to be the best, but she's punishing them because she's power hungry. And I just really feel like her um consistently punishing Crush when she's the one who's gotten the victories and the pins for like the past 2 weeks is just pretty nuts to me. Like, when are you gonna take her off of probation? It's like she's still 1/3 of the trios champions. She's gotten like the last 2 victories that you guys have been in the tag matches. When are you gonna stop punishing her? And when are you gonna actually let them speak again? Like, it's just kind of ridiculous. And it's like you said, Crush has been very outspoken and very well spoken on her own, and doesn't need anyone speaking for her. So even when she was friends with Princess Aussie wasn't speaking for her. So I do agree that there is going to be some
dissension there with top tier, but I feel like they're going to mask it for so long until it finally just cracks eventually, because you can't just keep treating someone who is showing you and giving you their best, like trash. You just can't keep doing it. um so yeah, it's just really frustrating from that end. And I do hate that this was our first time seeing Little J Boogie this season, and she was injured, and I was just like, my baby, no. My purple and gold dancing baby. I want you to, be more active. But hopefully we'll see more of her, within the next year as, 2025 gets started. But yeah, Tiki and Pep really did try their best, but top tier is just top tiering now. So it was kind of hard. And it's kind of hard to see who exactly could actually defeat top tier at this point, because they just seem to be well oiled until they won't be. So we just gotta wait and see. So after this match, they did a superhero spotlight on Ashley Blaze. And she talked about how she's always at home with a ball in her hands because she was always playing basketball and volleyball when she was in school, and she was also a track star. She's a runner, she's a track star. So she found wrestling and she decided to keep going and keep swimming in that pond, as she said. But then she also talked about the hardships of being an athlete and how hard it is mentally and physically. And she got really candid about how she tore her ACL and her meniscus, and how her coach told her that every day you get 2% better, and that's what she's been doing. And she's really excited to be a part of the WoW roster, but she is here to prove herself, and basically blaze through the other girls. So with that in mind, we go into match number 2, which was Genesis versus Ashley Blaze. Now, Genesis for the past couple of weeks has been really frustrated at the idea that she hasn't had any singles competition to prove herself worthy of that top spot for the WoW World title. But now she has it here with this qualifier match, and she was really excited about that. This was a pretty brutal match, to say the very least. Though Ashley Blaze was twisting up on Genesis's arm in terms of sort of like trying to technically get the upper hand on Genesis, she actually hit a springboard arm drag as well, which was very impressive. Genesis decided to take the ruthless route of attacking her knee and hitting a leg drop on her knee over and over again. And something that David and Nigel kept reiterating on commentary is that Ashley Blaze has on the knee brace, not because she needs it, but because she has a sort of like, I don't want to say like a coping mechanism, but kind of like a coping mechanism, you know, to understand that she isn't as hurt, but then out and to operate maybe as a form of taking care of it. But but Genesis just decided to take full advantage of that and just kept targeting the left knee over and over again, kicking her in the back of it, wrenching it backwards. It was just tough. Genesis hit her leg banisher, and then Ashley tried to reverse the cover, and she just kept twisting her knee and her leg into the ropes. And as Blaze, just kept trying to fight back, and she even hit a moonsault while she was hurting, Genesis tore the knee brace off and kicked her in the head as Ashley was trying to like keep it on. And that's how Genesis won the match. She is now qualified for the Battle Royal. And yeah, she seemed very ruthless and careless about it. She was just like, yeah, I did it. And she was just like, oh, boo hoo, another one bites the dust. Or should I say, a blaze got burned out. I will say this, Ashley Blaze was a pretty good contender to be a newcomer here at WoW, but I think you guys made a mistake in making her my opponent. I mean, come on, not very smart. Anyway, I'm ready now. There's only one match between me and the WoW World title, and all I've got to do is get 11 women out of this ring, and there's only going to be one left as WoW World Champion. So yeah, it was very vicious, very terrible. You hate to see it. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this match and the way that Genesis basically just tore down Ashley Blaze?
I'm not surprised. I remember how it was with Exile in general. They seemed like they were very aggressive, in general, when they were doing their matches as a group. And then even with, the member change and all of that, they still moved in a way of aggression. Genesis has a lot to prove. And again, this is one of those like just proving to the audience, but to herself. She's been feeling away about how Exile went, her role and WoW, her being put in teams. She's felt away, and I felt like she was trying to remind people, well, this is why I should have been the leader of Exile. This is why I'm like I said I was. This is why you shouldn't get too comfortable with the kumbaya. And I say that not in a negative way, but like in a person like Genesis who has this goal in mind to like win by any means. If it gets her to a title, then she's going to take it. And I felt like this was unfortunately Ashley just got the brunt of it because she was the opponent. So her saying like, well, she was good, but there was a mistake having. It's like she already knew. She was like, it didn't matter who the opponent was. Her goal was to win. And if she had to be brutal to do so, so be it. So she definitely did brutalize Ashley in that regard. And it's like, oh, okay, well, he tried, I guess, but this just speaks to, again, I think a lot of people going into this battle royal who has things to prove. And she's another one who also has something to prove.
Yeah, she does. She was absolutely ruthless in this match. And this is what she's wanted to prove, all this time. Like, she was hungry for it. Even when she was participating in those trios matches that she didn't want to be in, she was still chomping at the bit to prove herself. And sadly, Ashley Blaze just happened to be like a victim of that. And as cool as it would have been to see Ashley Blaze in that opportunity because she's so new, I just Genesis is just on the warpath now. And yeah, that's just what she came in there with. And speaking of ruthless women on the warpath, they showed a recap of the debut of Xena Phoenix. And in the midst of that and talking about, where she's from and, what her motivations were, this leads us into match number 3. We had Vicious Veronica Varoom going up against Xena Phoenix. And you definitely had a battle of the new girls here, and these women here again are very ruthless. Definitely V3 as well. She didn't even let Xena finish her entrance before she started beating up on her. She hit her from behind, was just giving her all types of blows. But then Xena was giving her that energy right back. She was just like, look, you're not just gonna attack me from behind and think you're gonna get away with it. This match was really intense. V3 hit a triangle slam and knees to the abs and a camel clutch to Xena Phoenix while also rubbing her knuckles against Xena's head. Like, the thing about V3 Veronica is the fact that when she beats you up, she likes to insult you and beat you up. It's like she will be like, yeah, I'm beating you, but then at the same time try to embarrass you. Hey, Kenneth. So in the midst of all of this, you just have all of this ruthlessness and all of these moves while also just trying to, add insult to injury. But then Xena fought back with a Thez press and an arm drag and a hip toss and a somewhat of a fireman's carry into an arm bar. And Big Bad V3 wound up tapping out. So Xena Phoenix won, and this was really cool. So yeah, Xena Phoenix is definitely on the rise because she has already qualified for the battle royal, but for her to fight against a newer yet another new WoW superhero was pretty cool. And V3 has a lot of bravado behind her, but that bravado got knocked out and tapped out. So Xena Phoenix had the victory. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this match? And Kenneth, thank you so much for the compliment. Yeah, thank you for watching. But yeah, Kat, how are you feeling about this match?
Much appreciated, Kenneth. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. She, Triple V, as you were saying, came in there, just came in there gunning for Zeta, like just overly gunning for her. And I think while she did until about the end, like hang in there, I guess she wasn't ready for a submission. And that's one of those things. It's like I'm all for being confident, and sometimes I'm even okay with talking shit because, like, there's a for those people who play spades, for instance. And I was like, if you don't know how this is a joke, like, well, you don't know how to play spades, but the shit talking part, the whole part of I'm gonna talk a whole bunch of smack while we get into this. Even if it's possible, I might be losing. I'm probably gonna talk some shit. That level of, and I felt like while she didn't do a lot of chatting, I think she came in there like if she did, like she came in there like if she was somebody who was talking a lot of smack before she had to get like beat up or something, she probably would have. That's the vibe I got from her when she started. And so Xena basically was like, "Well, we're both new, but let me show you," or rather, as the same, like allow me to reintroduce myself. I felt like that's what she was basically doing. Um, like this might work with somebody else, but it's not going to work with me. And I can always respect let people know what it is. I'm a good believer, and sometimes you gotta let people know. Like, you gotta let people know where you stand. You let people know what you're capable of. How it can get real left real quick. You gotta let people know. I'm a firm believer in that. As somebody who says it, very few people see me really, really, really upset because it's like I don't particularly like being that. But that whole level of like, yeah, I guess sometimes I gotta let you guys gotta know what it is. Like, not me. Like, and I felt like that's what Zito was doing. Like, oh, you thought you were gonna do that to me? Like, and I was like, I can respect that because I'm good for like, excuse me. Like, all right, if this is what we're doing, like, if this is the game we're gonna play, okay. And I think this was basically she wasn't ready for Zia. She bit off a little too much than she could chew. And maybe the next time we see her in the match, she might be more take a little bit more time to maybe assess. Is this something I need to go right in with all of this? Do I need to slow it down a bit? Like the good thing about being, well, if you're a decent wrestler, at least is to understand some aspects of why wrestlers might do certain things. So you went in on the attack and try to do that before the entrance. And to be fair, why I have always joked semi like serious about like if I was ever a heel and Undertaker took like 20 years, I'm probably gonna get him on the ramp because I'm not waiting. But that would make me a heel. If I was like, oh, you're taking 20 years to get to the ring, man, please, I'm about to beat you up on the ramp. To be fair, those are the vibes that I always like. I'm like, I'm not waiting. With that being said, though, it's different if it's a person just going out for a claim. You decide I'm gonna do extra. Doing extra and losing is crazy. I'm like, oh, you did all that, and what have we learned? Okay, that's been my thing. What have we learned? What have we learned? Let's do better next time. Do better. So it was a good match, but I was glad to see it because I was like, girl, calm down. Like she went in just extra aggressive, and that aggression cost you a loss. So do better next time. That's all I'm saying. Do better.
Yeah, V3 definitely has to do better because she really did come in really hot. Like the same way she did with Tiki, that's exactly what she did with Xena, but it wound up costing her in the long run. Um Something that I did notice is that they did say that V3 is from the Bronx. And um Katrina, have you seen anybody, really like act like her from the Bronx? Like, are they that aggressive?
There's the so hopefully any Bronx people won't feel away because I'm about to do what I do in New Yorker. So there's the jokes of boroughs and how it's like Staten Island doesn't get acknowledged except if we're talking about like Wu Tang. So everybody knows Wu Tang comes from Staten Island. So we like yay them.
Oh,
But then
so
it
they're
ends
from
right.
Staten Island, really?
Yes,
I
Wu
did
Tang
not
Clan. Yeah,
know that. Okay.
yeah. So they're from Staten Island. So the joke when you're because as well, like at least for a group that I know, like the people I know, it's always like, well, we don't even acknowledge Staten Island. You guys got the Wu Tang, and that's where it ends. Like, calm down. And it's not even y'all; it's them. It's not even y'all. Calm that down. But the Bronx, you didn't say, well, what borough do you not want to go to? And it's always the Bronx. If you're not from the Bronx, if you do not live in the Bronx, any other borough would probably say, we're not going to the Bronx. Like I said, we don't acknowledge that out. So it's always a joke, like, they don't even matter because we don't acknowledge them. unless somebody else says it. I feel like we New Yorkers would talk crap about Staten Island people, but we can't let nobody else talk crap about Staten Island. It's like that kind of thing. Like we can do that though, because that's where we're from. You can't do that. So like we make that joke when people was like, "Well, do you want to go to the Bronx?" I'm like, no, not particularly. Like, I mean, so I think who did I just said it to somebody recently because he's from the Bronx, and it was just like, I mean, the zoo's there, that's cool. The Bronx is popping and everything, but I guess in Yankee Stadium if you care about any of that. But I'm like, yeah, So I mean, is it the joke that sometimes the Bronx people are a little too extra? Yeah, it's. I'm not saying all people from the Bronx is bad because Shay's from the Bronx and she's not at all in the slightest. She's a sweetheart. But there is the joke that the Bronx people are extra aggressive for no reason, that when you're like, it's the Bronx, it's like, oh, you already doing the most. Like and again, Bronx people, if you're watching, apologies, but also not apologies because that's what I said. If you know anything about me, this is how I am. I would always be like, it's Queens all day. And I guess everybody else saying, whatever. But Bronx, nobody trying to do all that. We don't care. Like it's sometimes they are a bit much, if you want to call that. So her being from the Bronx is just because no, if you think about sometimes we be like, y'all be doing way too much for no reason, just extra aggressive for no reason. Like I feel like when I think New Yorkers are aggressive, it's because of the Bronx. Like when I think New York City, y'all just too aggressive, it's probably because of the Bronx or something. They probably did something and y'all like, see, I think we all this crazy. And maybe we are, but also we're not. It's like that. It's like that, like we maybe, but also we're not. Like, so her being from the Bronx just makes it funny because I'm like, yeah, we definitely say sometimes the Bronx be doing too much.
All right. That's a New York lesson that I get to learn. Because the only boroughs I've been to so far, I think it's just Brooklyn and Manhattan. Is Manhattan a borough? Okay, good. I was just trying to make sure because okay. Yes. Okay. So I've only been
Manhattan is one of the boroughs, yes.
okay, great. I've only been to Brooklyn and Manhattan. I haven't made it to the others, but I do know Harlem is a high priority just for historic reasons. But yeah. So it's just okay. But yeah, I don't really have a dog in that fight because here again, for those new to the show, I'm from Alabama. So I'm from the South. So it's just like any lesson that I can learn from New York from my friends, I take it and treasure it because it's great. I just know the last few times I went to New York, it was incredible and I had a great time. But there's still so much to learn because it's such a big city, and here again, such a big state too, because there are other parts of it as well. So yeah, V3 is very aggressive, very extra and all of the above. But here again, it didn't work out well for her because Xena Phoenix has a point to prove, and she is not here for the games. She's definitely not here for the games. She is here to tap these girls out and possibly become the new WoW World Champion. I'm definitely here for her winning and going all the way because every time she gets in the ring, she just proves herself, and I just can't wait to see what else she does. So Xena Phoenix gets the win. Now backstage, moving into the animal kingdom, Animal Instinct, Katarina Jinx and Goldie Collins, friend of the pod, called Betty and Jessie, Big Rig Betty and Jessie Jones, hillbillies. And they feel like they are of a higher standard to be the WoW Tag Team Champions. And they respond, Big Rig Betty and Jessie Jones respond by they said they were going to turn Katarina Jinx and Goldie Collins into roadkill. And I hate that so much. I hate roadkill. So yeah, they said that they have 30 plus years of experience, and if Goldie and Katarina want to be the tag team champions, they will be it of the future, but just not right now. So, talking smack. And of course, they announced that this weekend there will be another qualifying match for the Battle Royal between Reina Del Rey, who's been campaigning for a match actively on social media, and now she's got it, versus Roxxy Fierce. So we'll see who gets the upper hand there. I'm hoping for Foxy because, Foxy needs to bring that win to the Fierce household. So we move into our main event, which was Animal Instinct versus Big Rigs and Bourbon for the Wild Tag Team Championship. And this was a huge opportunity. And I believe Katarina Jinx mentioned on social media that this is her first time, her and Goldie's first time main eventing. So I think that's a wonderful accomplishment. So snaps and claps for them. Yay. So, Katrina, you're not clapping. Clap. So yes. So this match was pretty good for the most part. Once it got started, Jessie and Goldie started off trading arm submissions. Jessie Jones hit Goldie Collins with a drop toe hold and then tripped her up, and then she hit a double back elbow to Goldie along with Big Rig Betty. And Big Rig Betty was starting some country kung fu that definitely reminded me of the Briscoe brothers. Rest in peace to Jay. And then they hit Katarina with the changing lanes. Then Goldie and Katarina proceeded to play their dirty games onto Jessie by grabbing her hair and then hitting her with the rat trap, that kick from Katarina Jinx. And then they hit a dog pound to Jessie Jones, and a scorpion kick from Katarina wound up knocking her over. And then they proceeded to isolate Jessie, but only for a moment until she was able to tag Betty, who came in swinging with clotheslines and elbows to Katarina and Goldie. And then they hit a double hip check to Animal Instinct. But before they could retain their titles the proper way, they get interrupted by guess who? Lindsay and Lori, who attacked Jessie Jones and Betty, and the referee had to ring the bell. So they won the match by disqualification. So Big Rigs and Bourbon are still the Wild Tag Team champions, and that's how the episode ended. So Katrina, how did you feel about this match and how Katarina and Goldie performed and what happened after it with Lindsay and Lori?
I thought it was a good match. I think it definitely was a good opportunity for Goldie and Katarina. Hate your release. Just because, as you said, they are definitely very supportive of the show. In particular, so they're one of the ones who always would retweet or share something, and so much love to you guys. But I do think this was definitely a big opportunity for them. Um, and while I do think that Jessie and Betty were doing they were doing well, and obviously because they said they have already tagged before, they've been friends before. It's one of those things where you guys kind of knew how it goes with each other. I do think Katarina and Goldie has been great together. Like I said, I didn't know how I felt about their team up in the beginning because I'm like, well, this seems so random. But then but I've been very pleasantly surprised with both of them. I mean, to be fair, I was Katarina's fan from the beginning. Again, cats. Hey, but Goldie, I have said even to her when we spoke to her that I think she has definitely grown and improved so much from the first time we've seen her. And so them together, I think they work very well together, even with the differences, even with the contrast to their personalities and the gear and everything else. But I'm a little annoyed because it ended the way it did. It was like, well, maybe they could have won it, but now we don't know because that being that Miami Sweet Heat involved themselves, obviously the next issue is not even going to be Animal Instinct right now. It's going to be to pay back Miami Sweet Heat. While they kept the titles, it was like you guys interfered. You guys, you know what I mean? Like you came in and did all of this to us. And so I feel like they're not even going to focus on worrying about Animal Instinct right now. They're going to go back to worrying about Miami Sweet Heat, which does annoy me quite a bit. Just because I said, like, girls, for the love of God, you will be fine. If for like a week, you don't have to worry about time. Like, you'll be fine. I promise. Like, the world's not gonna end. It's not gonna be like the craziest thing if for 1 week or a month or two, where if you're not in the title picture, the world will not come to a halt because of it. And so I was annoyed by that because it was just like, like I figured they would, but can we not? Like for once, can we not just let people do what they gotta do? If you would have came afterwards, fine. But to come in the middle of that, which could have been a change, no. So I thought the match was good, but I was highly annoyed with that aspect. Just I'm like, all right, we got it. You want to be tag champions again, but maybe if you didn't do all the extra, you might have kept them. I don't know. I feel like you guys sometimes focus on the wrong thing. Okay, you got to focus, keep the eye on the prize, as it says. And I don't think they were keeping their eye necessarily on the prize the whole time when they were champions again. So I was annoyed with that, but I do think Animal Instinct did well, and hopefully they get another shot at it. If it's Big Rig Betty or Jessie or anybody else, I do hope they get a shot because they've been kind of working towards that, of as far as possibly getting belts and possibly becoming tag champions and whatnot. But it was a good match.
I want to know something fascinating that I would love to see. If Lindsay and Lori just took a complete break from the tag division and actually challenged top tier with Penelope. Even though I know Penelope likes to be the big P, um, with the world title, I would love to see them actually put their heads together and go after the trios titles. I feel like at this point they might be the only ones that could beat them for those trios titles, and that would be a little bit more refreshing than to see them consistently going after the tag championships over and over again. And I almost feel like it's not even for lack of talent of people who could go for the tag titles, because clearly the tag division is okay. I mean, it's not stat, but it's still okay and healthy enough for other people to have an opportunity. But I'm really gonna need for Lindsay and Lori, I agree with you, to just take a break and just let other people have an opportunity, because it's like I mentioned earlier, that was Goldie and Katarina's first time main eventing as a tag team for those titles. And the fact that you came in and ruined that opportunity for them just because y'all weren't in it, it's just really self-centered and stuck up and gross. And I'm really gonna need for y'all to back up a little. Like, chill. Let other people have that opportunity. And it's like you said, we don't even know if Animal Instinct could have, won that match because they interfered, and it's just really, you know, like crazy at this point. So I guess we'll figure out what happened in the next episode this weekend. But either way, I feel like Lindsay and Lori really do just need to take a break and stop acting like, they're obligated to be in the tag picture when clearly they're not. Because y'all lost. That means you guys have to go to the back of the line, by logical wrestling rules. But of course, they feel like they're above that. So it's nuts. But either way, we've reached the end of our time together. If you watch this whole episode, thank you so much for staying on with us. I know we are currently counter programming with the second largest wrestling promotion on television right now. No shade. But we had to push it back. But thank you guys so much for watching. And of course, if you watch this later, you can on our YouTube channels on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and in Cat We Trust. And of course, if you want to support Wow Superheroes Women of Wrestling, you can go on wowe.com and type in your zip code and see what time it comes on for you on regular television. Or you can stream it on Pluto TV if you have like a Samsung TV, and you have like the 24-hour channel, you can watch it there. You can also watch it on Hulu. And on their YouTube channel. You can subscribe to them for Wow Superheroes and just continue to support them and also buy their merchandise from Pro Wrestling Tees, and also on Amazon too. So yeah, just check them out and support them and just support all of women's wrestling as a whole, because we are going to make history regardless. All of this history that's happening every single day, it is enough to make your head spin, and it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. We have titles, we have movies, we have really long matches. We are out here doing the work, and it's great. So, wait a minute. My sweetheart says second largest. What are you talking about? WoW wasn't on right now? Oh. Okay. Before I explode, Katrina, let everybody know where they can find and follow you, please.
You guys can find and follow me on Cat We Trust. We easy to do in every place but Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube.
Awesome sauce. And know you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and X/Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy. Follow the Hardy Wrestling Podcast on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast and on X/Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod. You can follow me at Queen Steph Hardy on Blue Sky. And you can follow me on TikTok for as long as we have it. At Stephanie_Hardy. And also know if you want to email your girl for, bookings and stuff, you can email me at hardywrestlingpodcast@gmail.com and read all of my articles at dailyddt.com. And I might be having a new episode of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast coming out this weekend because I want to be more consistent about things going into the new year. And I might have more creative ideas leading into the new year as well. So just continue to support us in this wrestling thing and pray that we don't pass out because we're trying to make stuff work. So next week is Christmas. Next Wednesday is Christmas, so we'll let you guys know what the schedule is going to be, but just know that we're probably not going to be on Wednesday because it's Christmas. So if we don't see you again, just know, have a Merry Christmas and a happy Kwanzaa and all the happy things. Enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, enjoy yourself, enjoy the presents, enjoy the food, enjoy Home Alone 2. Enjoy the Christmas lights and your Christmas tree. And most of all, just celebrate whatever it is that you celebrate because, yeah, life is worth celebrating. So with that in mind, this has been Steph and Cat Talk Wow, brought to you by the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and I'm not Daily DT, and in Cat We Trust. I'm sorry, y'all. And until next time, bye, y'all.